Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about some of the new features that are coming in version 5.8 to LS2 cataloging in regards to title locking. There's a whole bunch of really cool new features available related to title locking and helping prevent data loss and all sorts of cool things that I'll be talking about today. And we have, so just as some housekeeping things up at the front, just want to say if you have any questions as I go through this, we have a Q&A box down below. You can ask questions for Kim or myself, and you also feel free to talk in the chat as well. And I think that's most of the housekeeping stuff then when I think about it. And the session is being recorded and will be available soon on Catalogers Corner on LS Community. So let's talk a little bit about title locking. I'll talk about it more broadly in terms of sort of the framework that we approach this development with, as well as then also talking about some of the different workflows that title locking plays into, and then demoing some of those as well. So for title locking, what is it? So a title lock is a new state within LS2 cataloging that will allow only one user to have a title open and able to edit and make changes to the title at one time. And so when a title is open and a user has a title lock enabled on it, all other users who will attempt to edit the title will get a new message on either on the new view title page, or if they go into any of the other tabs where they may make changes to bibliographic information, they will get a new message alerting them that the title is locked. It also gives them information on who the title is locked by, and it gives information on the types of actions they can and cannot take on that title due to it being locked. So title locks also have a expiration. So title locks last for the whole duration of a cataloger actively making changes to title information. And after 30 minutes of inactivity, or if the cataloger moves away from the active tab in LS2 cataloging, the title lock is automatically released. So why title locking? Because this is a major change to how LS2 cataloging has functioned in the past, where previously multiple catalogers could have the same title open at the same time, making changes. But due to the nature of having multiple catalogers in the same title, editing it at the same time, and being able to save draft changes, there was the possibility for data loss to occur when two or more staff members or even automatic processes are attempting to save changes to a title simultaneously. And we haven't heard from customers of this happening, but this was just one of the steps we needed to take in order to ensure data integrity with a lot of those under the hood changes that we made in version 5.8 for LS2 cataloging. So this is just one of the sort of the bonuses that came along with that data restructuring, is now we have this title locking feature that will prevent multiple users from editing a title at the same time. And another sort of bonus to this title locking feature is that it will provide more clarity to users about when other catalogers or cataloging staff are making changes to titles through those new title lock messages, and it displays the username of the user that has a title lock enabled. And so while LS2 cataloging is very flexible and allows people to work in multiple spaces in this this digital cataloging module, before you couldn't see who had a title open and was making changes to a title record, but now if you come across a record that is locked, you'll see who has a lock on it. So how to start a title lock. So there's two sort of ways in which a title lock is started, either initiated by a cataloger on a single, like individual title record, or through the cataloger initiating batch actions, or through some automatic processes that happen. So if we're if we're starting a title lock on a single individual record, and that will be making changes to any title via the title editor, and or making changes to the serial subscription pattern for serial titles, or to changes to any electronic resources. And this is because a title lock is initiated anytime bibliographic information is changed or any information that's tied to the MARC record itself, anytime that information is changed. Since within library.solution and library.solution for schools, we kind of keep items and titles sort of separated until you want them together for an extract. Physical items are separate from this, and including creating new serial titles with a pre-configured subscription pattern. So those are not affected by title locking. You're still able to add items to titles, add serial subscription items to a serial title following the same pattern, but you can't edit the pattern because that's tied to the bibliographic record. And things like that. But as far as electronic resources, since those are tied directly to the bibliographic record, there is a lock initiated anytime changes are made on the electronic resources tab of the title editor. And so that's just how the changes work for individual records as you're going in and making changes to a single record from LS2 cataloging. But there are other actions in LS2 cataloging, like the batch or automatic changes to records that will also initiate one, including deleting titles. So this will now prevent catalogers from deleting a title that someone else is currently editing. A new title lock is enabled whenever a cataloger does a title batch edit to a large, however many number of titles. A lock is initiated while those changes are being made, and those changes cannot happen to a record that is being locked by someone else. And also the authority update processes. So if a cataloger is making changes to a local authority via the authorities tab, then the authority update process will check for title locks as before it completes that process, or it will create a lock from the system when it's making those changes to those titles. And also in line with the authority update processes, there's the automatic overnight updates that come from Library of Congress. And so as part of its MARC authority, so any records that are locked by the authority process, the user that displays in that message is system. So if you ever come across, once you upgrade to 5.8 and you come across this title is locked message, and you see that the user that has it locked is system, it's one of those automatic processes that has it locked. So now we know sort of like broadly how to start a title lock. How do we end a title lock? So there's, again, two different ways. The first is being cataloger initiated versus an automatic release. So for the cataloger initiated releases, it's when a cataloger or staff member opens a single title to change any of the bibliographic or title level information, and that title lock is started. And then that is ended by publishing their changes to the title, or by selecting the new Done button that's in the title editor. And that signifies that you are done making changes to your title. And so if it's still in a draft state, it will save it as a draft, and then it will release your lock. Or if it's in a published state, then it says that you are done. You don't want to make any more changes to the title. And this also follows with the cataloger initiated as far as if you close the browser tab or the window that you have open with LS2 cataloging with a title in a edit title screen, then it will release the lock. Or if you step away to another browser tab and come back, you'll get the little notification that your title lock has been released. And then you will have the option to refresh your title lock once you come back to the title. And next, for automatic releases, we do have title lock expirations. So title locks expire after 30 minutes of inactivity on a title, and you will get a pop-up notification. That's the still working screenshot that's here. And you'll get it 2 minutes before the title lock expires. And that time there in bold does tick down as you go. So it'll go down to 1 minute. And you do have the option to keep working, and that will refresh your title lock, and then you will extend it for another 30 minutes for 30 more minutes of inactivity. Or you can also choose to discard your changes, and that will remove any of your draft changes that are unsaved. And also then once, if you do not make any changes to this, still working pop-up, then you will get the notification that your title lock has expired. And so if you want to continue working, you can select the refresh title lock button, and that can bring back in your changes. But if you close the tab or hit the back button or something like that, any of those changes you did make will be lost. And for any of the automatic releases, again, that's the browser tab or the window closes. And also for the batch processes or the automatic processes, as they are finished, they are automatically released by the system. All right. So as I mentioned, there are some areas that are not affected by title locking. That includes adding physical items or serial items. With serial items specifically, that's only with using the pre-configured serial subscription pattern. Textual holdings on serial items or serial titles is also not affected by this, as well as the enhanced content tab is not affected by title locking. So I think that's most of the broad overview of title locking, how it works, why we implemented it, and the sort of theoretical how to initiate a lock and release it and things like that. But I do want to go ahead and demo through this and show you what it looks like in version 5.8 in LS2 cataloging. So here I am, I'm already logged in to LS2 cataloging, and I'm in a title space here. I've collected a couple of titles together, and I want to show you what it looks like to actually initiate a title lock. There will be no major changes to your usual workflow other than one new step to select edit on the title to open the title editor. So here in LS2 cataloging, I'm going to open up my title. So when I select a title from a title space or from advanced search results, you get to this new view title mode, which is, we know what mode we're in because it has a sort of title up here. So we're in view title. And this mode is where we can sort of review the bibliographic content that's here. So I can see all of the information here, and these are all in non-editable fields. So this is a sort of review, a view-only landing page of a title. Whereas previously, when you selected a title from a title space or advanced search, you would end up automatically on the edit title screen. And so we are in the edit title mode because you see we have our title up here. And this is the mode that you are all familiar with in LS2 cataloging. And you open a title, you have the option to edit it. So now it's one more step to get into that, but it allows users to quickly review bibliographic information and see if they need to make changes to a title without automatically initiating a lock. which I think is very handy. So once, since we selected edit, we're now here in edit title, and we have a lock on this title. It's not something that is apparent to the user who's making an edit because there's no notification like your title lock has been initiated or anything. It's just one of those background processes that happens so that while you're editing the title, you have the lock on it so no one else can make changes to that title. And so while your lock is initiated and you're in the edit title mode here, you do have a couple of options here. Once I make changes to my title, say I, come in here and I say, I just want to remove picture books from here. And now that I've made changes on here, I get the option to save as a draft. I get the option to, add it to a title space. I already have that one in a particular title space, but you can add it to another one. I do have the option to select done, which means that I am done making my changes to this title. And if I select done, but I have unsaved changes, we'll let you know that I can either save and continue, discard my changes and continue, or I can stay on this page. I do want to say here for now, I can, again, discard my changes that I've made to this title, and it'll go back to the most recently saved draft version or published version, whichever one is there. I can delete the draft, which will delete all draft changes here. And since this is a not previously published title, since I have the green publish button, it's not in my local database, this would just delete the whole title. Since I believe I pulled this in from ItsMark, so it will just delete the whole title from the system since it's not been saved. If this was a previously published title and I made draft changes to it, and I chose delete draft, it would just then revert back to the form or the version of the title that has been published. So we have our standard save as draft button, so I could save all of my changes here. And we do have our new auto save draft feature, which is very exciting. I'm very excited to have this here in LS2 cataloging. So this auto save draft option will allow you to select the interval that you want the title editor to save your changes in. So you can choose from 1, 3, 5, 10, or 20-minute intervals to save changes to your title as you go. And so I have this enabled now, and say I want it saved every, you can change it to 5 minutes, or say I want to save it at 1 minute, and it will, in that interval that you select, it will try to make saves to the draft as you go. And if you have changes that prevent it being saved, it does give you the alert in your in the field. So if I have like an empty field, it will let me know that this field's required when it tries to auto save the draft. Or if you have required fields that need information like your title and things like that. Yeah, it gave me my unable to autosave draft because there's errors on the form, and it gives me the information of where that the field is that needs to be saved. So if I remove that, now the next minute that it goes by, since there's no errors on the form, it'll automatically save it as a draft, which is very nice. So I know that I can, move away from this tab, step away from my computer to go do, any of the other duties as assigned, and come back to it and know that, the changes I've made to this title are going to be saved as a draft, even if my title lock does expire, since I had to walk away from the computer. And so that's sort of how how it looks if you are the person initiating a lock on an individual title, if you're making changes to it. I'm going to go ahead and hit done. Another minute hadn't passed, so I hadn't made any changes to it. Since this is a physical book, no lock is enabled if I add a physical item, but a lock would be initiated if I add a electronic resource to this title. So here I have now started a lock on this title since I'm adding an electronic resource. And if I choose to discard that and move away from it, my lock is released. So again, for the user who is initiating a lock, making those changes to titles, you're not really going to see a whole bunch of changes to that, other than you have to essentially initiate the lock intentionally by choosing the edit feature here. So once you hit that, that starts the lock process. But that's really the only change for workflow in making changes to individual titles. But there are some changes if you are another user who is looking at a title that is locked by someone else. So Kim, if you don't mind going ahead and locking the Murgoat magazine title, then I can show what it looks like once it's locked by someone else. Come in here.
Sorry, I muted myself.
Nope, you're fine.
I'm done.
Ah, cool. There we go. So that may be one of those things that, like, if you click into it and you refresh the page, then you may see your lock, or it may be locked. You refresh the page, it may be unlocked because the other user has stopped editing the title. So here I've come into this magazine title, and I now have this new sort of message up here in yellow with our little alert icon, and it shows that Kim Mumbower is editing this title. You need to wait before editing the title, but you can add items. And it also gives you information that, it'll be released if they publish the title or move away from the open title, and then it will automatically expire after 30 minutes after the user's last edit. So this is our new sort of information message that happens on a title that is locked. And while a title is locked, you don't have the option. You can't can't enter the edit title mode, and you cannot publish any changes to it. Can add it to a title space. So if it's being locked by someone else and you do want to make changes to it, add it to a title space to save for later whenever they're finished with their changes. And the view title mode is still the same, where it's all sort of view only show of the title information. So this is a serial title. So I'm going to come into physical items here. And I do see here we have that title editing is locked because Kim is editing the title. It says I need to wait before editing the subscription pattern, but I can add or edit serial items based on the existing subscription. So if I come into our subscription pattern, I can review it, and it gives me the sort of view only view of the subscription pattern, since this one's already been configured. And then, but I do have the option to add an item here. So I can add an item, and I can also save and add subscription items and things like that. So I do still have the option to add items, add subscription items as needed on serial titles, but I can't edit the subscription pattern. And when I come to the electronic resources tab, I do see that, again, Kim is editing this title. I need to wait before editing a resource or item e-resource record. So this isn't a e-journal, so I can't add a e-item, but it's locked, so I couldn't add an e-item even if it was an e-journal. So the add electronic resource button is disabled, but I can't delete. And if I try to edit a title, it will open up a sort of view only mode of the electronic resources here. So that's sort of what it looks like going through the title if you're opening a single title and looking at those different tabs. And if we try to do some batch processes on these, as far as deleting titles and items. So if I come back into our title that is locked and come here to more, and the more actions, I choose delete title and items. So it's showing this in 2 title spaces, gives me the option to delete, and it says something went wrong, and it will give me my error report. It says unable to delete record, title is locked by Kim Mumbower. So you can't delete the title that's locked by someone else, which is good. And so that's deleting a single individual title. But if I were to go through and do it as a batch action and say, I want to delete a couple of titles from here, and I say I want to delete them, it says you want to delete 3 titles because that's what I selected. I hit delete, and then I get a successful for 2 of them, and then I get the alert that one failed because it's locked by another user. Please try again later. And that item is still selected since I had it selected before, so I know which one was not able to be deleted. So it'd be easy for me to then go back into this title, add it to another title space, say, delete later or something like that, to then come back and delete it whenever Kim is finished making changes to it. And also, if I have titles that I want to publish while this one is locked, say I want to publish, and it gave me the success that one title has been published, and it gives me the little link to view that title, but the other title could not be published because this one is still locked. So that's what it looks like as far as doing some of those batch actions for deleting or publishing titles as you go. There is the title lock feature is also enabled when you are doing the compare feature. If you're moving items from one to another, that's totally fine. There's no issue doing compare and moving items. The title lock comes into play when you remove all of those items from a title and then it prompts you to delete it. If it's been locked by someone else, you then can't delete that title. I want to also show what it looks like if you are updating an authority record from the authority tab. So if I come in here to our authorities tab, I search for the heading of ecology. So I have this heading here for ecology and also has some punctuation in it. And I know I want to move this to my fast heading. I know that that's the one I would prefer it to be. I can use my find a better heading, move it to ecology, my local, and I want my fast heading. If I choose this heading, I now get the alert saying that titles linked to an authority record are locked by another user and can't be updated. Try again later. So this, when you're trying to update an authority heading and one of those titles linked to that authority heading is locked, that authority update process is stopped completely. So you don't have any weird states where some titles are updated and some titles are not. It's just going to prevent updating all of those titles altogether. So as a note, if you come across this, then I would recommend, just making a note of the heading you want to change, make a note however makes sense for your workflow. And then again, come back to it later and try it again and see if you can update it once people are finished making changes to those titles. And let's see. If we also, I can also show what it looks like for making changes like batch edits as well. So if I want to come up here to these titles and I want to batch title edit, say I want to add an award to them for some award, we'll just select one, and this will add a award field to it. And I want to leave it as a draft. Choose save as draft and go through, and it gives me this result or notification pop up that it says it edited one of 2 titles. One was edited successfully, and one of those titles couldn't be edited because it was locked. And I do get this new option here to move to a title space. So since the one that could not be updated, now allows me to move it to another title space. So I can say, I want to move it to my batch add that. And so now that title is in a different title space that I can do my action to later. And I like kind of titling my title spaces and grouping things together like that. And then once I've done this and it's all done, I can go ahead and I could just delete my title space and kind of clean everything up. So that's the workflow for some of this. And I also want to talk through what it looks like as far as import. So, pardon, all import types in 5.8 have been changed to look for title locks before they update titles when you are importing them. That's both the previous import types of normal import and the update OCLC control numbers, as well as the new import option of only update, only change title contents. That one also looks for a title lock as well now. And so titles that are locked are not updated via the import process, regardless if you choose keep existing content or replace existing content. And the error report gives the record ID of the title that couldn't be updated and the username of the person who has the title locked in the error report uh, here in import history. And when you are doing import, if you choose replace existing content, an automatic title lock is placed by the system. And because bibliographic information is being changed since you're choosing to replace the existing content. But if you choose keep existing content, that system level title lock is only made if changes to electronic items is made, since you're choosing to not change any bibliographic information. But if you choose, if that import record has changes to electronic items, then it will initiate a lock since that's on the bibliographic record. Otherwise, physical items and serial items are handled just as they were before. So that's a brief look at title locking, sort of the workflows and how it works, the high level of it all. And I want to go ahead and I wanted to give plenty of time for questions and be able to walk through specific workflows if anybody has questions. So Kim, do we have any questions so far?
We do. We have 3 so far.
All right.
Do you think I should go ahead and unlock that title record, or
Sure, yeah, you
does
can,
it
and I'll
does it
let
matter?
you know if we need to lock it again for some
Okay,
reason.
let
Yeah.
me just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Cataloger in me wants to, be done with that part. I don't know why.
Hmm.
Compulsive cataloger. Okay, there are 3 questions. And I thought it'd be better to answer them live so that way you can talk through things. The first one is from Jenna. She asks, does toggling between browsers as opposed to tabs cause unlocking, like navigating away from the LS2 Cat tab? In other words,
So,
if you're got another
mhm.
browser open, a whole window open,
Yeah,
how
so that
does...
that does not um that does not release your title lock. I've been actually demoing this in that way. I've been going back and forth between different browser windows. So you're all good there. It's a great workflow if you have multiple monitors. I know that's not the case for everyone, but if you do have multiple monitors or if you have one monitor and have, multiple windows open for multitasking, you're able to have 2 open side by side. That's what we recommend, especially if you have a title open and you're, doing research, um, have WorldCat open and something, trying to find some more information to update your title record. Um, recommend doing that rather than switching between tabs in the same browser, since that will release your lock. If no one's editing the title as you are, if you go to another tab and come back, if no one's chosen to edit that title, you'll be able to refresh your lock, no problem, and make those changes. Or those changes you've made will be saved, and you can then they're retained rather, and then you could save them. But if someone did come in while you were in a different tab and make changes to that title, initiate a lock, and you came back, um, then your changes could not be retained because they weren't saved. So one way to make sure that your changes are always saved is to enable that autosave draft feature so that it saves in a constant interval as you are going through. So hopefully that answered your question, Jenna.
I guess. Yes, she says yes.
Cool.
Great. We don't really have any statistics on how many times 2 people or could be working on the same title at the same time. So hopefully you won't encounter this very often. But we wanted to have this behavior in place, just in case. Okay, the
Yeah.
next question from Brenda. Can two people be in the view title screen at the same time for the same record? There's a two-parter here. So that's the first part. Second part, can a person be in the view title screen when it is being edited by another person?
Yeah. So the view title mode is the view only mode. Any number of users could be looking at the same title at the same time. So when you are on this view title page, there's no you are not initiating a lock on it. So any number of users can be on here looking at it at the same time. And when that title is uh, locked by someone else, if you don't mind going ahead and locking that again, Kim, I
Alrighty.
can show what that looks like again.
Okay, I've locked it.
All right,
I
so
mean,
I'm
I'm
gonna
in it.
refresh my, yeah, I refresh my page. So now I see that it has been locked by Kim. So this, while someone else is editing this title, this is the view title mode that I see with the title lock um, message up here, but all of the rest of the view title information is still here. So I can see, all of the title information in here. I don't see any of the changes Kim has made to the title yet until it's saved and she's chosen done and it refreshes again. So I'm not seeing the changes she's making like live here from view title, but I can see, the information that was already here and the title information. So I hope that answers your question, Brenda.
Yes. We'll give her a minute to say if it didn't help or if it did help. All right. The next question is from Laura. Do you need to enable the autosave draft for each title you work on, or is there a way to have that turned on all the time for all records?
So the autosave draft, the type you select here from 1, 3, 5, 10 minutes or something like that, that is already enabled. But once you enable autosave draft and I want to make a change, I'm going to go ahead and oh yeah. So something else I should note quickly before I answer your question, Laura, is once you enable autosave draft, it doesn't give you the option to save as draft then because it's gonna do it for you. So you can just disable it if you're done, you don't want to wait for autosave to continue and hit done. But say I've enabled it here, I said done, finish making my changes and go back to my other title here and go into edit. um, autosave draft is not still enabled here. So that's something to note is that you will have to enable it as you go into multiple titles, but um, that's definitely something I would like to have like sort of retained as you go through so that once you enable it, then, it's kind of set for a while. So I think,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead and submit an idea to LS Ideas, Laura, if you want
yeah,
to see that change, because we knew going in there'd probably be feedback from our catalogers, and we'd like to know what you'd like to see changed or added.
yeah, for sure. Once you all are able to get upgraded to 5.8 and you're playing with title locking and all of the new changes here in LS2 cataloging, as you have feedback, we totally welcome ideas because a lot of these things are new and we'd love to hear, Kim and I and all of us here have done, extensive testing to test all the different types of workflows and things. But we can't test everything. There's always those different workflows or edge cases and things like that. So if you come across something that you think would be a great improvement for you and for other catalogers, feel free to submit an idea, reach out to Kim and myself, um, bring up your ideas at the monthly Q&A sessions with Kim and myself, or reach out to support. All of those things. We're happy to hear your feedback and for future improvements on all of these changes in LS2 cataloging.
Okay, another question. Jenna has another question. Could future development allow libraries with solo catalogers to opt out of this or modify the process by permission level? I'm a solo cataloger, and this seems like a lot of unnecessary clicks for me to make a simple edit.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great question, Jenna. I don't know, like, structurally in the way that the new structure of LS2 cataloging is made, whether that's something that's possible, but it's definitely a great suggestion and something we can look into if that is possible in the future, something that would like auto enable the edit title um if you have something enabled in your settings or something like that. Um, so that's a great suggestion. I will definitely look into that and feel free to submit an idea about that and add your votes, add comments to it once it's there to give feedback to us if that's something that seems like could be useful if you are a solo cataloger and things like that.
Great. All right. Got another question. Uh, it's Debbie Cook. She's asking for clarification.
Okay.
She says, clarification in batch edits. If I start a batch edit of 100 titles and 10 are locked, they will remain in the title space with a note on each one that I still need to edit them, correct?
So when you are making a batch edit of those 10 titles here, I will kind of walk through the workflow of that. We'll go grab a couple of titles. Let's go grab some ebooks and add them to a title space. Here to 100 and let's see, add them to my other title space. Gotta take it a little bit. All right. I'm going to go into my title space now. So I've got my 100 titles I want to make a batch edit to. And oh yeah, but 10 of them are locked. So I can't demo that one very quickly. But um, so if 10 of them are locked, they are going to retain or they're going to stay here in your title space. And when that batch edit is completed, you'll get that, the pop-up saying, 10 of them couldn't be edited, and it'll give you the option to move them to a new title space. Um, I would recommend moving those to a title space and then creating a new title space with the name of the batch edit you want to do to them, if that makes sense, so that they're grouped together and that title space kind of gives a note of what you want to do to those titles. Because the if you choose to not move them to a new title space or you do move them and you don't leave any sort of note as far as the title space name, there's no sort of note in the title record itself saying, a batch action couldn't be completed because they were locked. So recommend, if the workflow that's made sense for me was creating new title spaces and naming them what I want to do to those titles because they were locked and I couldn't complete it. That's sort of the workflow that's worked for me. But if there's another sort of note-taking style that makes sense for you, then it may just take some, playing around with the functionality and seeing what makes the most sense for um, your workflow and stuff. So I hope that makes sense, Debbie. I see your
Oh,
question, Melissa,
yeah.
on when locked does synthetics unbound content get updated? Yes, so the enhanced content tab on a title that come into, I don't know that any of these are going to have them because they're mostly e-journals, but I'll come into one of my titles here. So even if this title is locked by someone else, the enhanced content tab is still available to review here, and you can still report incorrect or missing content, and it'll still get those updates from Synetics Unbound. So any of the enhanced content is not affected by title locking. Yeah. chat. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat here. I'm excited for especially the view title option here, so that multiple people can see the same title, but and you can't make any changes to the title here accidentally by random hitting the keyboard, or like my cat likes to come across my keyboard occasionally. So no random changes to a title is going to be made unless you intentionally choose edit, which is one more step in the workflow than it is currently. But like we said, if that seems like a hurdle to the workflow, submitting that idea or upvoting it once it's in there is very helpful. So we tried to make, we wanted to keep in mind both, large libraries have lots of catalogers and cataloging staff, as well as really small libraries with, one or two catalogers. So trying to find an equal ground there, but we can definitely, we're happy to make improvements as needed. Yeah. Do we have any more questions on title locking and the workflows? If there's any other specific workflows you can think of for me to step through for you to see sort of what it looks like. It can be a little bit tricky with title locking with large numbers of titles, just because I don't have I guess I do have infinite browser tabs, but it's hard to coordinate that. As a little like peek behind the curtain, it takes some finagling between multiple windows with different user accounts to try and like lock titles. So that's why I have Kim helping too. It's a lot easier if you have another person intentionally locking a title. So um and one of those, due to the nature of the title locking, it's one of those things you may not come across very often if you don't have another person um, who's editing titles as well. So you may not see a whole bunch of impacts to your workflows other than the new edit button here. And then, some of the other improvements we've made to the editor as well. But um, that's just some little tidbits on it. Um, I do have some other like small bits of information I did want to share specifically about title locking, to keep in mind that um, title locking is built around sort of like the browser caching and things like that. So as browsers update, um, or as browsers, if your browser has an update, we recommend you update your browser. Like mine, I see right now, I need to finish my update. So I need to update my browser. But you may come across issues where, some things that may be kind of funky, um, things like may not look super right. If you're running into any issues like that, we recommend always, check to make sure your browser's up to date, and you know, clear your cache and see if maybe that kind of fixes the issues. Um, Also, something we've come across in testing is that the Safari browser on Macs can sometimes be a little funky with title locking. Don't know how common it is for you all to be cataloging on a Mac in Safari. I catalog on a Mac, but in Chrome. So Chrome is great, and I've never really run into issues with it. But do need to update my browser. So this is your reminder to check and make sure your browser's updated if you haven't done that lately. Um, but yeah, Safari, we've noticed some funky things with it regarding to way that Safari does caching. So we recommend, Chrome and Firefox are two great options that we know work really well with title locking. So, um, is there anything else in particular related to title locking you can think to add, Kim?
No, no, you covered everything I could think of. Um,
Right.
no, I can't think of
Um,
anything. Excellent. Good
oh,
information.
yeah, yeah. And I see we've got another question here from Brenda too.
Oh.
If one person has a title that has never been published, locked for editing, and another person scans the ISBN to search for a record, will it let them know there's one in a title space already? Hmm. Let's walk through that workflow. Let's see if we can do that. Let me see if I can
Oh,
find one.
I guess should I go back? No, you've got that's a local one.
Um, yeah, if you can come into this title locking webinar title space, Kim,
Okay,
and
lock Fable.
um, yeah, if you want to lock Fable, then that'll be good.
You sure?
And
Is
then
that the
I
one you?
will, yeah, yep, because that one's not a local published one.
Hang on, I've got to get you a space
Let's,
if I can find it here. Here we go. Okay, I've opened it and I've edited it. I've done an
okay,
edit.
so if I scan ISBN to search for this title, so since it's never been edited, I don't see the title or it's never been published. It's not, I'm not able to find it here when I'm searching for ISBN. Let me make sure that that's right. Another standard number. Yeah, so I don't see the title here in that. But if I go into another title space and add it, and I come in here to local, so it doesn't show that, this title does not exist in my local database yet. So it doesn't exist here when I'm searching for it, since it's never been published or never been saved either. Like there's no, I guess there has been draft changes to that one, but it's not been published yet. So I don't see it when I'm searching for it here. But if I go into, say, the same title space I was in and I go to add it, it will give me, oh, since it's that one, since it doesn't find it in your local, it will try to like match it again, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, let them know there's one in the title space already. Yeah, so it doesn't do that for a title that's been already added but not yet published. I hope that makes sense.
The data is not fully indexed. The title and item data are not fully indexed until you publish. So the searching mechanism here doesn't know that data exists yet. So
Yeah.
so it's okay if you bring in a title that someone else happens to have a copy of. And I don't know what would happen when if that, well, I don't need to get into what ifs. That'll just add more confusion. But I think it'll be okay once someone
Brenda,
publishes it, right?
yeah. And Brenda says we've come across a situation where one cataloger is an unpublished edited item in their title space, and another cataloger catalogs the same
Right.
title and it creates two records. Yeah, that is something that is possible, and yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
due to the indexing, it's not able to be found until it's published because it's not yet saved to the database. Um, so that is something that's uh, a
We
little tricky, I
yeah.
guess.
We have had people saying, well, I want to be able to search all title spaces for titles that haven't been published yet. We don't index that data. So
Yeah,
um, in this scenario, that could cause an issue if two people have the title and the first person who saves it, publishes it. The second person goes along and then that replaces the data, I think. Well, that might not be a bad thing,
mm,
right? So the first person
true,
saves it there with their edits. The second person has more edits. It replaces it.
right?
Same data or new data.
Yeah, but this is in that instance, there are two different drafts
Right, right,
of the same title. It's not where you are two people are editing the exact same draft at the same time, if that makes sense,
right.
because of the title locking. So it would be where if you multiple people cataloging the exact same book and both pull in new drafts of those titles, then they would do that and then they would overlay with matching, because the system wants you to merge them together. Um, I think that's how that would work, Kim, right?
Yeah, the,
Yeah.
the the draft of a previously published title, they're all the same draft. Everyone, even though there's five catalogers working on a previously published, well, not anymore, but not with
Yeah.
title locking, but in the past, you could conceivably have uh, multiple people. What happens is even if five people are looking at it, let's go to view title. Five people chose to view a new title that comes in because they want to add an item. No problem there with title locking. You just add your item. If you want to
Mhm.
make edits, then you're prevented from editing the title data if someone else is already doing that. So that's where title locking comes in. As I said, we don't know exactly how often this might occur. That most, so many people want to, with a new title, they just want to add an item. They're not editing the title. So
Yeah. I sort of work around for that, and it may depend on if it's something that you think that some other cataloger may have this book, like especially if you order multiple copies that come in different boxes, and you think, oh, I wonder if, you know, if my coworker has already pulled in a draft of this title. An option that I've used in the past is to, for this one, I've got 100 titles in here. You can increase the number of um, titles that display, and then you can use your browser search. And I don't know what all is in here. Well, America. So I've got this one. So you can use your browser search to like search for a particular title. And it only goes up to 100. So it's not a ton of titles, but at least it gives you a sort of a brief look at what titles may be in a title space. Because they're not indexed for searching within LS2 cataloging, but your browser page search could be a good like kind of workaround for that if you want to see what's in a title space that may not be indexed yet. I hope that is helpful. That's a little hack I've done a couple times trying to find a particular draft if I've buried it in a title space somewhere and I don't remember where I put it.
you can also use sort title, sort that title space
Yes,
by the
that too.
title.
Yeah.
It's kind
Yes,
of
because they
the
know
same number
one
of
sort.
clicks. So doesn't help getting from one across all title spaces. Um, there might be some technical constraints. We'll have to think about that at some point.
Yeah. But thanks for bringing that up, Brenda. That's a great point and something we'll definitely look into. Um, because yeah, you don't want multiple drafts of this or multiple instances of the same title, even if they are drafts. So that's something to we can definitely look into in the future. Well, all right. It looks like we are just about at time here. Thank you all for coming and for learning about um, title locking and everything. I think I've got one more slide here. Oh, yes. So we do have another webinar, which is actually a cataloger Q&A with Kim and myself, and that's going to be in 2 weeks on March 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we hope you all will join us for that session. Come prepared with any sort of questions or um, anything you want to discuss with fellow catalogers, either be it with Kim or myself about functionality in library.solution or across TLC products, or if it's about cataloging more broadly and the sort of the cataloging landscape. We're here to chat and talk with you all and hear about the projects you all are working on and things like that. So we look forward to seeing you all then, and thank you all for uh, joining us.